the introduction. My name is Kaneko from Keio University in Japan. Actually, my background is computer science, not a museum guy, but I'm now thinking how to utilize computer science technology for the kind of a next generation of museum. So today's title is a design and prototype of Museum of Shared and Interactive Cataloguing. It's a prototype of the virtual museum system. So today's outline is starting from the what is the concept of the virtual museums, and then what is the design of the virtual museum, context sharing, and then catalog approach, virtual museum applications we are now developing. So starting from the concept, as you know, there are many web-based online museums. It's simply they simply publish the digital data through their website or their national repositories. So the picture over there is the snapshot of the Metropolitan Museum's webpage. It's wonderful. It's sophisticated and great interfaces, and then it's well designed. But it is standalone. It's standalone. It's not connected. It's not the meaning of the not connected to the internet. It's standalone and then not connected to the other those kind of museum softwares. So my idea of the virtual museum is this one, the global scale. So globally connected heritage sharing, that is the baseline, and then anybody can make and open the virtual museums, and then anybody can see. So these virtual museums sometimes use the data from this museum, sometimes use another data from another museum, and combine those data and then realize a kind of exhibition. It is stored in network in the internet, so it's a longer term exhibition. Right? If we lose the data, the combination data for the exhibition, then we lose the exhibition. But if the computer stores those information, then it survives. It survives for a long time. So today's topic is how do we design a global virtual museums platform. Why I add the platform? Because I'm now thinking like this. So here you can see the Earth, and then several museums has its own data, the digitized data. And then at this moment, the current online web service, each of the museum publish their resources. But my idea is combine those information through this virtual museums platform, and then I want to realize many virtual museums. So the virtual museum platform is a common, the platform, and then we can realize various kind of virtual museums on top of it. Various means I don't mind what kind of the topics they want to show, right? And where, who, when to be used. What is the requirement to realize this kind of a virtual museum system? We need to handle, the system needs to handle of any types of files, right? Sometimes it's the picture, the image data, sometimes it's the audio data, sometimes it might be the 3D CAD data, or any other types might be happening. The captured digitized image, for example, it is a very big volume. We need to handle the large file, and also we need to think about the accessibility to the data. Yesterday, the Europeana told us that they only digitize 10% of their heritage, right? And then we have 90% more. And then they said that 70 years to finish. It means many later. At this moment, we went to the European web page. It's very hard to find out the exact content what we want. So increase the accessibility to content. That is the most important thing. And then to realize it, we want to realize this context sharing. Then we can easily find out that the close related contents, even we don't know much about the information. And also, it's a digital system, and then growth of the number, we need to care about the growth of the number of the files, right? Every day we create the files. And then again, 911 Museum in New York, she told us that they use the media information for the exhibition. So it means the content right now we are creating will be the contents in the museum for the future. So growth of the number of the files, and also according to the context and users we need to think about. However, the context or the meaning will be changing time by time. So we need to think about that point. This is a very important thing, I think. So I will talk about this point, the context, how we handle the context. Of course, we need to think about the life management for files in context. So before we go to the context talk, how to organize the information. That is a kind of a context. So at this moment, you're using the Google, right? And then the Google search is a very dictatorial. It means it pushes the search results to you, and then it doesn't accept any other way of search, right? Or the consensus-based information organization is a kind of a metadata schema design. So the librarian, gathered and decide what is the best way, what is the best, what is the required metadata. It takes so long time, and then when we reach to the conclusion, it takes long time, for example, 10 years, 5 years, and then what we should do, what we can do before the decision. So my idea is like this. So all individuals, that is a digital way. It's a totally different way of thinking. All the individuals organize the information from their viewpoint, and the results, the organize, how they organize, that is the result, will be shared over the internet. Then we know all the possible ideas how the other people organize the information, and then might be able to find out the appropriate way of thinking. So it's a different way of thinking. It's not a dictatorial. It's not a consensus based. Just publish our own idea, and then after that we can think about, is this a good way of thinking? And then here's another way of thinking, and then we can sometimes switch those ideas. Then that is the idea. So the point is the flexible framework for fluid context that fluid all the time, and then way of thinking. Time by time, region, the personal background will create a different context, and then that is the most interesting point, I think. So the context is fluid. So how do we describe the context? Context is a kind of a perspective, and then we can describe, hey, I will take this perspective using the natural languages. But we need to think about, this is a digital system, so it should be friendly enough to the computer system. And then computer says, hey, this is 0, this is 1, right? So computers handle easily without errors. That is one important point. And then on the other hand, the human understand it intuitively, right? Those, these 2 points are important when we design the context description. Now, approach is a little bit strange for you, it might be. We don't use a natural language to describe the perspective or the context. We allow users their own interpretations of someone's context. So somebody says, hey, I have this context, but you might understand differently. We allow that kind of mismatches between the publisher and receivers. So our approach is a cultural. It's a totally different terms totally different terms from the existing regular, the museum catalogs. But the meaning, the essence of the catalog, the word of the catalog is very close to our idea. So the catalog idea is we extract the minimum essence of the information. It's a context, so we have several objects here, and then the minimum essence is these information are related or not. So this existence of relation is a catalog, and then we store it and share. But when we see a kind of a group of the object, what I can understand from the group is, oh, okay, it is related. That's all. And then if we don't have the description, then you might say, hey, it's very difficult to understand. But human beings can imagine what is the relation of the group. For example, here's the 2 pictures. It looks similar, but it's different. What is the similar point? What is the different point? Maybe you can easily understand the relations. I say something, hey, this is the same group. You might say, hey, this is a different group. Open interpretation is the idea. So, but a catalog provokes users to find out the meaning. Natural sense of the comparison, it will help to understand it. The system is a catalog system like this. It's a separate world from the file storage itself. It's a totally the virtual relational information among the objects. For example, this is a catalog A. It's actually the president of the USA, and then catalog C is the leader of each country. Catalog B is like this. So this kind of the relation information is a catalog. The catalog interpretation. So the important point, we have 2 important points. One is consistency of a catalog, what the relation is, difference of the files, or difference of the catalogs, and what is a different point when we compare with my memory. Here, what is a consistency? Mountain is a very famous mountain in Japan, Mount Fuji. This is also the Mount Fuji. It's a different object, but the shape is a Mount Fuji, and the title of this object is a Mount Fuji. Picture, actually this is the Byobu, the picture, and also this is the file comparison. This is the ukiyo picture, and then this is very influenced cover page of the Mail, the Dobishu's music. And then this is a catalog comparison, how they are connected, right? We can see, hey, this is the same connection, this is a different connection. those, the comparison between the files, between the catalogs, and also the consistency of the catalog will inspire something in your mind. Our virtual museum is like this, file sharing system, and also the catalog system I just introduced to you. On top of those two, there is a museum applications. We can utilize the files, data itself, and also the context information, and then combine those two, realize an application. I briefly introduce the applications. One application is a mosaic application. It's a kind of a viewer, right? When you use the internet, you cannot see these kind of maps, right? But in this mosaic application, you can see all the relations, and then from the bird's eye view, what is the relation, and then hey, I can jump to that one. The system is developed on the 4K touch displays. It's very, wonderful experience. So we will have the expo. So please visit our booth. Briefly, I want to show the something like this. So, 2 more pages. I'm sorry for that. This is another application. In the Mosaic application, I show you all the arrows between the information. But this application doesn't show any arrows between the contents. The arrows information is behind of the application. Actually, this application is intended to introduce the cultural heritage inside our campus, and then encourage the students to imagine what was happened here. So this kind of application can be realized using the same backend technology, and then I just show that we will do the demonstration at the expo. So this is a summary that I have already over. So thank you very much.
Questions. So I have a question about the end of the presentations. Of course, we have time to take a look at it of the expo today. But do I understand that you use data from real museums?
Yes.
And do you think that would it be possible to use, for example, data from European or from other systems and just aggregate them and use them in an exhibition?
Yes, I think it's possible. It's a how to say. Okay, so for example, the problem of the online web service is when the museum changed their web, the site, then we will lose all the connection, all the links sometimes. So it's better to realize all the data has to be identified by a global unique ID, and then we can just specify that ID, just retrieve the information. That is the best way to realize this kind of application. But unfortunately, the current, the existing web service cannot realize such, the function. So that is a problem, but basically it's possible to realize that you retrieve the information from the internet websites. Is this the answer?
Yeah, because I'm thinking about European and our Polish project.
Uh-huh.
There are so many different ways how you can use data if you have appropriate applications and solutions. And also I had a question to Ari. Because I don't know how it is in other countries, but in Poland very often museums are asking and are really eager to use 3D representations in the museum because they think that it's really fancy and really nice. And actually, I'm not sure whether they evaluate if they need this method to tell everything about the objects they want to show in this form. So what would you recommend them, how they should review the objects, whether they need 3D or not?
One thing, one group of objects is sort of natural and it's architecture. 3D works very well for garbage, that's possible. But if you have such sort of basics, old basics, there's not much extra information if you can rotate it. It's have information in multiple places, and 3D can be combined that information. I think.
And it's a question to all of you and all of the speakers. What do you think what might be the future of virtual museum? Because we've seen different applications and different concepts. There are different definitions, and there are private virtual museums and applications that you can have it in your pocket in your mobile phone, and something that's so complex like this presentation. So what do you think what might be in the future?
So I work for Wikimedia England. So I think the one virtual museum that is not mentioned very often is Wikipedia and the other sites. It's a very different kind of approach. Of course, because it's not centralized, you can go, but it is a virtual museum in one sense, and sort of very different kind of environment than when one museum or some national organization runs and sort of, I'm hoping that information flows there and it will sort of spread users to actual museums.
Open digital heritage. And actually Ari wrote a dissertation about open digital heritage and it's available online, so I can advertise it. It's really an interesting dissertation. Yeah, you have a question?
Well, I have a reflection or a thought just came up that then again we are talking about the virtual museum online, and then again we have to define what is a museum and why does it have to be a museum online. I mean, Wikipedia and all the repositories of cultural heritage online today, they form the collections of what the museums represent. I mean, museums are kind of collections of findings or knowledge that are curated into exhibitions mostly, or most of the time. So I'm eager to see what your project will land into, because how about the online museum which are curated by the crowdsource or source crowd exhibition that picks and comes with all the story and creates an online exhibition, the virtual museum created by the people, so to speak. I mean, So where's the border between the physical and the virtual museum, and why and how do you define it as a museum online, and why would you do online?
I was thinking along the same lines.
Yeah.
I think we're still at the stage that the institutions want to have a sort of virtual counterpart. And I think that the future will be much more really virtual in the mind of an individual. But I'm not sure, it could go that direction, but we've seen a few years ago that virtual environments for outside gaming were becoming popular, but now they're not so popular again as 5 years ago. So in gaming they're still very paramount, and they're really much like the real world. But we have these community virtual environments, and it seems that they have lost a bit their attractiveness. But then people could create their own museum walls and their own collections. But then that's what Ari said. Then you only have, the 3D as a representation and not as an information object. But I don't know what the exact status is of the appeal of virtual worlds for the crowd outside games.
Right. A little bit different but very similar topics. What's the difference between the digital archives and the virtual museums? So many, the